make a light. So the experienced turners here, the gray-haired ones, oh, whoops, that's all but one. Two.
The one is
Yeah.
right here.
Okay, well, realize what the wrongs are in this one. I'm not going to explain it. So the two is 2 times I screwed up, and the other 2 is the 2 types of wood. Well, there is a third, Purple Heart, to sort of represent how I bruised my ego when I did it. So 2 wrongs do make a light.
This was, I was using my eccentric chuck to make this. And a friend of mine, Michael Hossagoff, always said, you don't make mistakes, you make design opportunities. In this case, I made a mistake. This bottom piece should have been set over this way a little bit. But it's it's 2 inches by 2 inches, and it should sit more or less with this piece over here. But it's, I brought it in because I thought, well, I made a mistake and I should bring in mistakes sometimes as well as some things that don't become mistakes. But anyhow, that's my story, and I'm sticking to that. Yeah, the eccentric chuck is one that I bought that Jean-Pierre Escalon made, and Jean-Francois. And when I was over there, he showed us how to make this type of a piece. And I was doing really well until I got to this final section here, and instead of continuing to think about what I was doing, at the time I decided to think about how to do the cap, and needless to say, I made the wrong setting. But it's an interesting process how they do it, though. And if anybody's making boxes and tops, they might want to try it. What they do is they make the bottom part, they start the top piece, and then they set the bottom into the top while this is still a block of wood, and then they shape this part. So it's going to be the design will be nice and flow and uniform. If you, as I did before, I used to do them and I would make the bottom and then I would make the top and think, okay, it's going to look like that, and then when you put it back together, it doesn't always, the design doesn't always work. Anyhow, I'll shut up for a while. Anyhow, it was my attempt at it anyhow.
The other part is, these are cut in staves. There's multiples of 12, which is all divisible by 2. And all the staves are 2 inches wide as well. So my whole purpose of making them this way is from doing a lot of segmenting work. I've got a lot of these little strips of wood, you know, that are 1/4 inch wide, and they just sort of pile up there. So I said, well, I'm just going to glue them all back together and make some staves here, cut the angles on them, and put them back together. So that's exactly what I did. Some leftover pieces made the tops. Wasn't quite big enough for me, so I had to laminate a piece in the middle as well. Played around with the designs and things in them a little bit, just for the heck of it, just to disguise where the chuck holds them, basically. But various woods, obviously: Padu, maple, yellow heart, bit of walnut, cherry.
Could you pick one to hold up to you? Does this flash go? Yep.
Nope.
No? Those do?
Nope, go good.
Enough to break this.
Well, yeah, it is, because that's actually too much tonight.
There's only one that's got 2 weeks.
How do you operate?
Now it must be up. Oh, it's okay. Well, I think they did a decent picture of you, but
This started yesterday afternoon, so 2 by 2 is 4, so I made a 4-sided box. And I've learned a lot about, yeah, you have to calculate that stuff. The other thing was I knew that I wanted this sort of taper effect, and I thought, well, probably what you have to do is turn an axis on the outer part and an axis on the inner part, and that seemed great, except it turned into a spiral, and I didn't know where to go from that, so we had to start all over again. So you wouldn't want to look at the execution of this all that closely, but it is something. So
Brian, can I just get a shot of that for the camera here?
What?
Nope, it's too much. I guess.
Well,
There,
yep.
perfect.
Painted, extra part for the brass, and then the top part to hang somewhere, probably on a tree eventually. But that's my project. Flash is working.
Cleanest level that we used to, but anyway. So this is a little thing that I bought for the princely sum of $8.80 or something like that. And what it is it's a little radio receiver, and it's got, and this is where the 2 plus 2 comes in. There's 4 relays inside. So you can actually control 4 different things, okay? So 2 and 2, okay? Anyway, so the relays here are sort of small. And you know, if anybody's interested in the electronics, I can talk about it later because I'm sure that'll bore some people to death. But these relays aren't good enough to put, you know, they're labeled as 10 amps or something like this, but or they're labeled as 20 amps. But but reading on the internet, when people tried running anything with a lot of current through them, there was a lot of fire coming out of this thing, apparently. So anyhow, so what I did was I did buy a real honest to goodness, this is a 25 or 26 amp relay, which means it can handle 15 amps without catching on fire. And so one of these relays fires one of these relays, which sends the power from the plug to this. So basically, for $8.80, the relay was almost as much. It was like $5 or $4.80 or something. And some other parts I have lying around. I didn't have to steal it from Busy Bee. Okay? Now, I will admit, Busy Bees looks nicer than this. Okay? However, since it's a wood turning thing, you'll notice I made it out of wood. Okay? And it's a horrible prototype, so please don't anybody judge me too harshly about my electronic skills here. It was just wiring it as I went.
Tim can hold the camera.
So anyway, I did try it out today, and I don't have a dust collector, but I have a big mean shop vac that, you know, makes the lights dim when you turn it on. And this seems to work on it fine and everything. The other part of the 2x2 was for your $8.80, you don't get just one relay, you get one fob, you get 2 fobs. So for those of you who like to lose your key fobs, okay, you can lose one and you can still go. Okay. So anyway,
Unless they're chained together like that.
well, you know, I think if I would, yes, that's a good point. But they, you know, you can hook one on each side. So anyway, so I've been looking at that thing from Busy Bee for a while, and it always struck me as it's a lot of money for what it is, and it's affordable, but it just always sort of struck me. I hate looking at something and saying this thing should cost a few bucks, and they're charging a huge amount for it. So anyhow, so like I said, this thing cost me about $13 or $14 in parts, plus some other stuff lying around. I used batteries here because I didn't have this thing runs off, unfortunately this thing needs 12 volts. So, and I didn't have a 12 volt wall wart hanging around anywhere. And so I just put some batteries on it, which made the thing slightly more complicated.
Just find someone's cell phone charger.
Well, the cell phone chargers I have seem to kick out 5 volts these days. And I looked at an older charger, and it was 9 volts. And I thought, you know, that might work, but it probably won't. This relay says it wants 9 volts to fire, and I thought if you got a 9-volt charger, it might not have enough oomph, so. So anyway, so admittedly, nothing to do with woodworking, wood turning, but for those of you who don't want to steal from Busy Bee, here's a cheaper alternative.
Could you hold up those 2 little boxes right there?
These 2 little boxes,
Yep, that's my input for the 2x2. They're 2 inches, they're around, and there's 2 of them.
there's 2 of them,
Yeah.
I'll help, there's 2 of them,
Yes, and they're 2 inches.
and they each
diameter.
have 2 parts,
There you go.
and they're 2 inches.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's,
That's it.
that's 3 tubes,
One for next year.
okay.
Could be big enough to put your pills or your breath mints or your Viagra or whatever you want to put it with.
$6
Thank you. Thank you, Vanna.